Thank you for listening to the BJJBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the world-famous BJJBrick Podcast. This is episode 270. My name is Byron. I'm here with my fellow world-famous buddies, Joe and Gary. How goes it, my friends?
You know, it's tough being world famous. Everywhere I go, I've got women following me and just drooling. So it's a rough life, but, somebody's got to do it.
Gary's talking about his time he spends at the care home and helping care with people, yes. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm not trying to be world famous. I'm happy being a big fish in a little pond. And out of the two friends I have, I think I'm the better looking one, so I'm okay with that.
Well, it's indie podcast, and so does ours. It has a global reach, so world famous podcast. I was somewhere traveling with my wife, and all these restaurants were claiming world famous this, world famous that. And it reminded me of the little clip in the Elf movie where he's like world famous coffee or world's best coffee. And he went in there and congratulated them on their cup of coffee. And it's nothing but a crummy cup of coffee. But anyway, got a great episode. And I would say this would be...
world famous.
Yeah. Not to... Because we've just mocked ourselves. But really, this is the type of interview. I got done with it. I went and started talking with my wife, and I was like, this was amazing. Talking to Evan Robinson today, and he motivated me. This guy's had an amazing story, ups and downs, and a lot of challenges thrown at him, and he's really helping people, and he's leading by example. He's if you can't accomplish your goals, look at Evan, and he's accomplishing his. Like that, it was motivating to talk to him. It's like, what hurdles are in your way, and how come you can't get past them? Evan's doing great with his, so that's coming up in the interview portion of the show. Thrilled to bring it to you guys. This interview was recommended by one of our Patreon supporters, Nathan. So thank you, Nathan, for recommending Evan. So excited to bring that to you guys.
And Byron, you keep talking about world famous. I'd like to let everybody know about the world-famous Byron's BJJBrick audiobook, Your First Year of BJJ.
Oh.
Definitely world-famous.
Gary, thinking about that, I should have put world-famous on the cover.
You should have. I probably would have sold a little bit more. But, it really is world-famous. Without putting it there, it's actually got to that point. I know it was one time, I think it got up to number 3 on the BJJBrick Podcast world famous bestsellers. So
out of the two things we're selling,
yeah, it did get up there. So it's pretty impressive. But what it is audiobook, 2.5 hours of Byron conversing with you, taking you through your first year of jiu-jitsu. And we feel that the first year is the hardest. A lot of people drop out in the first year. Byron's goal is to get you through that first year, motivated, happy, learning as much as you possibly can, and just rolling with a smile on your face. So definitely check it out. It's got everything from the benefits of jiu-jitsu to how to prepare for your first competition to how to pick your school. That's always a tough one. Check different schools out. But like I said, it's world famous, getting a lot of great reviews, helped a lot of people. And even if it's not your first year of jiu-jitsu, you have training partners that are in their first year. Christmas is coming up. Great gift to give somebody. So definitely check it out. We have a link to it on the show notes.
Man, Gary, we are on the same page. I was just thinking by the time this episode airs, it's only going to be about 10 weeks till Christmas. So, yep, that's a perfect idea. Inexpensive gift, and it's the gift that we'll keep on giving.
Kind of like the Jelly of the Month Club, right, Joe?
Exactly, and we all know that's better than a Christmas bonus.
Definitely.
Better for the company, anyway. Gentlemen, I've got a off-the-mat lesson, and I think this episode's packed full of off-the-mat lessons that Evan brings to us, but typically we have an off-the-mat lesson, so let's continue to have one. This goes back... So what we do here, if you're new to the show, we discuss something, and then we bring it onto the mats, and we kind of break it down and how it relates to jiu-jitsu, or vice versa. And this off-the-mat lesson, my wife and I were on a snorkeling little trip, and we were like in a little boat, about 8 or 9 people in it, and a tour guide and you have snorkels and the mask and fins and all that stuff. And the guy had said, we had been in the water like 4 times that day, like little trips and looking at different things and having a good time. And he said, okay, this place right here has a bit of a current. He even tied like a rope on the back of the boat. So if you get tired, hang onto the rope and just hang out and look at the fish or whatever, but you don't need to swim all the time. Well, we all hop in the water, and 2 of these guys hop in, and they're college guys. They were really fit, but they hop in without their fins on because they had done that previously when the water was really still. And maybe they weren't comfortable, maybe their feet hurt or something like that. I don't know why they would not have the fins on. But they hopped in, we're out there swimming for a while, and sure enough, the current kind of pulls at you, and we end up a decent a ways away from the boat. It's still in sight, but it's out there a little ways because the current just kind of, just as the time goes, just pulls you out further and further. And it's like, okay, time to come back, guys. So we start heading back, and 2 of them basically don't head back. They're swimming with us, but they're swimming and staying still. And that's when we realized they don't have fins on. And we started headed back, and like those guys really are having kind of a hard time making any headway. They're swimming. So my wife and I turned back around. I'm like, what's up? We don't have fins. We this current is too strong to swim against. And they weren't close to drowning, or they weren't panicking either, but they were just wearing themselves out trying to swim against the current without fins. If you've never swam with fins, it's insanely different. It's like rowing a boat or putting a motor on the back of the boat and sitting there, like not quite that Jurassic, but it's just such a mechanical advantage to put fins on and to swim. And so basically it's like, well, let's just chill. No reason to worry. The guide, okay, was there as well. He said, I'm going to go back and get the boat, come back and get you guys. You guys stay with these 2. And basically we just kind of held on to them and they could just relax. And we kept them afloat with our fins. So it's easy to tread water with fins on, even if you're holding another person. So we each grabbed one of them. We kind of helped them stay afloat for probably was not more than 5 minutes. And it was all good. I was talking about this story with Joe, and he's like, that's totally jiu-jitsu related with technique. If you get stuck in, let's just say, side control, you could fight and do all this crazy stuff, but unless you do the proper technique, you're just trying to rely on like sheer strength and power, and it's taking a lot more work out of you than it needs to. And not having the fins was exhausting. Not doing actual technical escapes, that's exhausting. You might be able to escape. You might be able to do something that creates enough space to get you out. But if you start your techniques, you build your frames, you get your underhook, whatever you want to do, and escape, it's a lot easier and less exhausting.
Yeah, Byron, as you're retelling that, I'm thinking that I can totally see some fit college kids thinking, I got in and out of the boat 3 times already without fins, so I really don't need them. And, I can see new athletic guys on the mats do the same thing. It's like the coach is saying, you got to have better frames. You got to develop a better bridge and some better technique. And they're like, pretty much none of the other white belts can hold me in side control, so I'm good. And that will be good for a while. But as you go up in ranks and your teammates get better, it's sort of like getting in more and more treacherous waters, or waters with more stronger currents. And eventually you're going to have to learn those techniques and use those techniques, or just like these 2 guys, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you can't make any headway.
Byron, that story is giving me some great advice, just thinking about it, kind of like what you guys are saying. And going back to the mat, I've been caught, in side control and not being able to get out. But just after hearing you talk, as soon as we're done recording this podcast, I'm going to the store and buying myself some fins, and I guarantee you I'll get out of side control next time. But thanks for the advice. I can't wait to use those fins on the mat next time.
Oh, you might get out of side control, but you're going to get footlocked like crazy.
He footlocks himself with those on and walking to the mat.
You imagine toe holding somebody with that? That'd be great.
We also have a quote this week. We debated on how to pronounce this person's name. It's not a quote by a person. It's a quote from a story or a saga. And how this, it doesn't really matter, but I'll tell it. I was trying to find quotes, and I type in quotes, and then I would type another word to try to find something, and one of the ones that popped up was medieval quotes. I'm like, this sounds cool. And so this popped up underneath medieval quotes. The saga of Gary. The saga of Grettir the Strong.
Grettir.
And the quote's pretty simple. It says, a tale is but half told when only one person tells it. You know, you hear that quote, and like, well, that doesn't really mean anything to me or jiu-jitsu. You think about telling a story, or maybe somebody's misleading you or whatever. But with jiu-jitsu, let's just say you had a tournament, and you went out there, and you got armbarred like in a minute and a half or two, into your match, and you could tell yourself, man, I totally messed that up. I didn't know I had this big area of weakness. Getting suckered into arm bars from guard or whatever it was, and you could just think that is your story. But if you talk to the person who you competed against, and if you've never competed, especially at like the lower levels, well, really any of them, like most people are very friendly in jiu-jitsu. They'll talk to you. You say, hey, do you do that armbar a lot? And he'll probably would say, I do that armbar all the time, or that's one of my favorite moves. And you get the other side of the story. You get, okay, sure, there's work to do on your armbar defense. But the second half of the story is, this guy's got a phenomenal armbar. And you kind of walked into his game, and you didn't realize that. And I think that could help you grasp what just happened a little bit. It may not be all, you making mistakes. It may be just somebody had a real strong part of the game and you were unable to deal with that part of their game. You don't know the story unless you ask or you talk to somebody. And even then, they might mislead you a little bit. But most of the time, in my experiences, people just tell you, that's one of my favorite moves. My coach taught me that, and I really gravitated towards it or something. But a tale is but half told when only one person tells it, even if it's just in your head.
Byron, it makes me go back to your off-the-mat lesson about you said those really hot college guys. Isn't that how you explained to them? But you were talking about these really hot, fit college guys that were on the boat with you, and they had been in the ocean before. They had no problem. They went to another part of the ocean, didn't put their fins in. They did not know, like you said, that guy's got a strong armbar. They did not know here that the ocean has a strong current, and they really need those fins. So, on the mat, in the ocean, hot college guys, I can see it going here too.
Well, see, just to bring this up, what's happening here, I sent out an email every show and give us some basic notes, and I got a picture of these guys and me on the boat. Gary, I didn't mention that they were particularly hot. You just derived that from looking at the photo.
You said that earlier. You said fit, hot college guys, and I was just wondering how you knew they were fit, but then I remember you were telling me your vacation trips about how you massage them.
I got no defense, I guess, Gary.
Well, Byron, if you want the defense, you need to wear the flippers, the fins when you're in side control.
You're helping me out all the time, Gary. I know you have my best interest at heart.
You got that right.
Well, I guess that wraps up the quote. Joe, do you have any thoughts on this quote?
I'm telling you, I would have had no idea where to go with that one. I'm glad you were able to drag it into the jiu-jitsu realm. And yeah, it's actually, once you explain it the way you explain it, it reinforces the idea that good communication with your teammates is also key. Get some feedback. Speaking of only half the story being told, if you're rolling with somebody and you're having an unusually easy time passing their guard or something, if they're a good friend of yours and you have open communication, just tell them, hey, this seemed like an easier roll. Were you trying something different, or does it feel like I'm getting better? And that kind of communication is key. And they might tell you, yeah, you were doing something specific that was giving me a hard time. And once I'm going to start doing that some more then. So, yeah, make sure you get the other side of the story. Or maybe they're a butterfly guard person. They were trying to work spider guard, and it just wasn't working for them today. And that may be, and then that keeps you from getting a false sense of, oh, wow, I'm getting really good, when it turns out they were just playing one of Byron's 6 games for BJJ.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to drag it to, Joe. It made me think about, one of Byron's games where you pass to the other side, or I'm trying to control you to the other side of my half guard, which is not as good. And, the offensive guy thinks, hey, maybe I'm getting better today or something because I'm passing a lot easier than I really did. But like you said, afterwards, maybe have a conversation. Hey, for some reason I was passing better. What was happening? Did you see anything? And I'd probably knock your confidence level down when he said, hey, I was just working on my weak side. But it's always good to know really what happened. And that's why it's great to really talk to your teammates, find out what's going on, ask them about the role, ask them what you did good, what you did wrong, or, what you could improve on.
Yep, good stuff from kind of an odd quote, but maybe we'll keep dipping into this weird saga of Grettir the Strong. I don't know what we stumbled into. We did a little research. It's not that big of a thing. I mean, there's like some YouTube videos with a couple hundred views on there, and I don't know what's up with this. Hopefully we didn't summon something that's crazy, but I thought the quote was interesting, and we could, can and did use it. So let's roll on, gentlemen. We have an interview with Evan Robinson. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
He went to prison for transporting a huge amount of jiu-jitsu across the border, hidden in his gi. His grandkids could roll before they could crawl. He has never swatted a mosquito that was biting him. It's not that he doesn't want to. It's just too similar to tapping, and that's not in his nature.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BjjBrick Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Evan Robinson to the BjjBrick Podcast. Evan, I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I first kind of got exposed to you. A listener sent an article on jiu-jitsutimes.com about some of your story, some of your life story, and how jiu-jitsu has impacted you. Evan, could you just, however you want to do it, like introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yes, my name is Evan Robinson, as you heard. I'm a personal trainer, gym owner here in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I train people during the day. I train at Hensel Gracie, PA, in Hatfield. I do jiu-jitsu at night. I like to call myself the what's the best way to say it? The reformed knucklehead turned motivator who loves jiu-jitsu. That's how I kind of describe myself.
Okay. Well, that'll make sense in a minute as you continue to tell your story, I guess.
Yes, but besides that, I'm a regular guy that I listen to hip hop. If you want to know, I'm a hip hop R&B guy, and I'm a what else? What's that? I have a fiance. She's a veterinarian. Her name is Jeanette. She's a good woman. She stands by my side. She helps me out. I'm a family man, big family. I try and check on everybody. Everybody checks on me. Regular life type guy.
Awesome. Seems like you've got a great not just situation, but like a whole system that you're part of right now with the gym, both jiu-jitsu and personal training. Got a great fiance. She's in a great spot as well. You got a good family life. So everything sounds great, Evan.
Now, yes. It's going well. I'm blessed.
Tell me about the younger Evan.
The younger Evan. Okay. The younger Evan, young me. Wow. Young me, I was, growing up, I was very impressionable. I like to follow people instead of being a leader. I got mixed up in a lot of different scenarios because the guys I kind of looked up to when I was younger were the kind of like the gangster type. I've always been more of a nerd. Nothing wrong with that for all the nerds out there. But the people that I kind of associated with when I was younger were more the streets, always into something. And I always found myself around those guys, like drawn to those guys, trying to be more like those guys. Don't know why. But that was younger me. That was me, always running around.
Always running. And then you made some decisions that you wouldn't make now, but that kind of changed your life.
Yes. When I was younger, running around with these guys, I used to work at a sneaker store downtown in the Eastern area in the Eastern PA called Sneaker Zone, and I was working there full time. And we have at that time we had a lot of guys that you would come into the store and flash a lot of money, and the so-called the dealer, and I'm making this and I'm making that. And after work, I would literally seek these guys out and rob them of their money. I was like on a reverse Robin Hood. I was robbing them, but not giving to the poor. I was giving to myself, and always, to me at that time, it was kind of justifiable because I was like, oh, I'm robbing drug dealers. It's no big deal. But as my mother always said, two wrongs don't make it right, and you can't justify wrong. So in the end, it kind of caught up to me. Yep.
Yeah, and so you ended up getting caught basically doing that, and
yes, I got caught. I got caught up. The police came and investigated me for a robbery, and that I was a part of. And in the end, not in the end, because I was still with the wrong mentality and still trying to be super tough. Instead of just taking the deal, I told them to take me to trial, and they did, and I got convicted of robbery and conspiracy to robbery, and this is back in 1997, and I was sentenced to 14 to 40 years in state prison for the robbery and conspiracy to robbery.
So that was in 97, about 21 years ago. I'm not talking to you like a collect call or through prison. How long did you serve?
I served exactly 15 years, 4 months, and 3 days. 15 years, 4 months, and 3 days out of a 14 to 40 sentence.
And we'll get to jiu-jitsu here in a minute, but like just hearing that, I've never really had anybody on the show with that sort of experience. So the minimum was 14. When that came, was that like at 10 years you're thinking, I got 4 more to go, then something might change? Is that kind of like a date that you watched 14 the whole time? And then every day after that, you feel like you're doing more than you maybe need to, or was that number the 14-year sentence?
No. In Pennsylvania, and I'm not sure how every state works, but in Pennsylvania, the 14 is the minimum amount of time that you have to do. 40 is the maximum time that you have to do. So anywhere between after your 14 years. The Pennsylvania Parole Board can grant you parole if they feel necessary, like if they feel you're ready to come back to the world. And for me, I got a parole. When I first came up for parole the first time, I got a parole hit, and it wasn't for being in trouble. It wasn't. I did all my time on an honor block. I know it's crazy as that sounds. I was in a jail, but they actually have honor blocks. But I stayed out of trouble. I never got into anything. It was just, I had dreams. I had big dreams to them, which I feel is like I told them I was going to open my own gym and I was going to play, and I did. I played professional poker, semi-professional for a little bit. The things that they teach you in jail were like, they always have their own program, CI Laundry. They tell you can work in a laundry shop, or you can get your barber's license while doing time. And I was blessed as a young man. I kind of grew up. I should have said this earlier, but my mother was in the military. So before the age of 14, 15, I pretty much traveled everywhere with my mother. My mother was stationed here, stationed there, stationed everywhere. So I got a chance to see a lot of things and just see the world and experience different people and cultures. So for me, it was always like, I messed up. I know I did. I have dreams of things that I want to do that I can do, but kind of going against what they prescribed for you to do, I think that's why I got my parole hit. I'm not 100% sure, but as far as like behavior or anything like that, it wasn't none of those reasons. I think it was just the politics that, like when I first came up, they asked me, well, how do you plan on opening your own gym? And I told him, like most Americans, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to work a job and I'm apply for a loan at the bank. And, well, what if the bank doesn't give you the loan? How are you going to write your business plan? Like most people, you sit down and you hopefully you have somebody guide you through it. You can read a book about business plans. Or what if they don't give you? It was always like a wall to why I can't own a gym or why I can't do this and I guess that's just how it is. So I got a year hit, and after my hit, excuse me, I didn't really get a year hit. I got like a 9-month hit, and after that, they let me out. They let me out on the next time I came up for parole.
Huh. It sounds like and I really don't know anything about the system, but they want you to have like a goal to something to achieve, and then have like some sort of like backup plan or some built-in resiliency to that plan, to where if it's not easy to open a gym, which I doubt that it is, that you could still somehow find a way to get that happening.
Yes, now that I agree with you. They kind of have it set up where they don't want you to get discouraged. Like, say if you have a dream to reach something, if you don't make it there, they feel like if you get discouraged, that you'll probably go out and recommit another crime or something to bring you back to jail. And they might actually have, there might be a lot of truth to that, because when you look at the recidivism rate, at least in Pennsylvania, it's like for every 10 guys that get out, 7 go back immediately, and like 6 go back with a brand new case within like the first year and a half. So there could be a lot of truth to that.
Wow. So really, that 14 years, if somebody's in, and thinking about they've got so many left or whatever, like developing that plan or a strategy or developing that skill or set of skills, more likely that you're going to need when you get out, will help you look more attractive to them as they're making a decision about what you're going to be doing.
Yes, correct. Yep, I think that's exactly how they look at it.
Evan, let's talk a little bit martial arts. When were you first exposed to martial arts?
I was first exposed to martial arts, I would say, as a young man. I started with karate on the military bases, traveling with my mother, and I never knock any martial art, but a lot of things when I was growing up, I would bounce between the military bases, traveling with my mother and my father's side of the family in New York City when I was younger. So a lot of things that when I would get to New York City, it's a fast-paced environment compared to where I was coming from, and it seemed like I would get into a lot of fights, and I really couldn't fight, and like karate really wasn't it for me as far as a fighting thing. So as I got older, I kind of left martial arts alone, but as I got older, here in Pennsylvania, I met a guy by the name of Joe Vanbrackle who lived in Eastern Pennsylvania, and he was a kickboxer / boxer, Jiu-Jitsu guy. He was the first person to ever introduce me to Jiu-Jitsu, but I always gravitated towards him because nobody would mess with Joe, and I was always in awe because like I couldn't fight, and I really didn't want to get in fights, and people would like pick me out because I really didn't want to get in the fights. It seemed like they would sometimes, we'll go after him, but when I met Joe and I seen like the respect he had, I was like, hey, can you teach me? Can you take me under your wing? I mean, look, I'll be a Luke Skywalker. You be Obi-Wan. Show me, please. And he did. He took me under his wing, and we started kickboxing a little bit. But it wasn't until the early, I would say mid-90s. I believe that was about 93 when the first UFC came out. Somewhere around 94, I believe Renzo Gracie had a match with Oleg Viktorov. And I forget the name of the organization, but it was after that Joe was like, hey, no more kickboxing, no more boxing. We're learning the wrong things. These guys from Brazil are coming over, man, and they're really making a name for themselves. The jiu-jitsu thing, this is where it's at. This is where self-defense needs to be. This is fighting. So I kind of just followed Joe. I kind of followed Joe. I figured if anybody knew more about fighting, it's definitely him. He knew way more than I did. So I was like mid-90s, 94, I believe. That's when I had 94 going into 95, maybe. That's when I learned about jiu-jitsu through my friend, Joe.
With Joe, was it that he actually was like really good at fighting, or was it his personality or the confidence level? Why did nobody dare mess with Joe? Or why? Well, I guess did you think that anyway?
Because I think it was a combination of like a lot of the things you said. He had an alpha male personality. Like Joe, win or lose, he wasn't backing down from anybody, anytime. And when he was dedicated, the one thing I've noticed, he was always dedicated when it came to martial arts to the martial arts. He would eat, sleep, train, like nothing else would get in his way. He was really, I think there's a name for that, but he gets so focused on whatever he was doing martial arts wise that like he would just train it. And when somebody would challenge him, I've seen this firsthand. Like if somebody challenged him, whether they could win or not, Joe accepted every challenge. Like he didn't back up. He believed in his martial art. He believed in his alpha male mentality, and win, lose, or draw, he was going to see. He never went out and started looking for the trouble, but he was the first not to back away. If there was trouble coming, he was going to help stir the pot. Kind of guy. Yep.
That's funny. And so that was before you did any time in prison, right? I mean, learning from him. And then, so you were exposed to jiu-jitsu before that, right?
Yes, with him. And never before I met him, just through him. Okay.
And then, basically, Evan, I've read the article on Jiu-Jitsu Times. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, because that's how much where I am, but we need to bring everybody else up to speed in case they haven't checked the article out. So, were you able to train at all in prison, or was it a focus at all, or did it kind of leave your mind?
Well, when you're in prison, you're not supposed to train. But, like martial arts, jiu-jitsu, it's like a brotherhood. You're not supposed to train because the facility, you don't want a bunch of inmates learning how to kind of like run over the staff. And I definitely understood that. But we were, I should say it like this. There were a couple of COs and there were a couple of lieutenants and staff that were really cool with me because they trained and they fought and they were amateur fighters and so forth and so on. And when they would be talking about, I should say like that, when they were talking about like class or what they learned or their MMA fights, I was always like all ears. And they would ask me questions like, hey, do you know about some of this stuff? And I'd be like, I would talk about Joe and I would talk about the little bit of training the knowledge that I did have. And they it was like kind of like the bond, like a jiu-jitsu bond, like a jiu-jitsu family bond. So the only rooms we had on the side were like our laundry rooms. Whenever like the Ultimate Fighter would come on TV while I was away, or I seen something that I wasn't sure about, I would ask him. I don't want to say no names because I don't want to get him in trouble just in case. But I would ask him like, "Hey, can I go in the laundry room and practice that? Can I drill that move? Do you mind?" And I would take a friend of mine with me, and they would say, "Sure, just don't let no one get hurt, or we trust you. Practice the move. We'll give you a half hour. Try and see if you can put it together, or here's a tip. This is what I learned in class from my professor. Maybe you could try it." And I literally was able to practice a little bit of everything that I knew, and some stuff that they would show me. And then I would get letters from my boy Joe, because at the time like I said, I was locked up, and Joe continued with his journey and was traveling the world, learning jiu-jitsu, and he would send me pictures, like picture 1, start here, picture 2, place your foot here, picture 3.
Really?
And yes, he would. And and through pictures and letters and some of the staff, some of the officers that were into fighting, I was able to not learn a lot, but I was able to try and refresh the things that I did learn, that I did know.
So
that's how I kind of practice.
Here's a question I've never asked either. Like, got a large enough audience, I guarantee you that we've got a handful of people who have a teammate that is serving time in prison. How much did that help you, having a coach, or it could really, I would imagine it could have been anybody from the gym, a teammate, keep in contact, keep like the jiu-jitsu kind of a thing going, or send you those pictures of how to do techniques and that sort of thing. How much did that help you?
It helped a lot. It helped a lot because I started becoming like I always use my friend Joe because he was a big, strong force, and he was a driving force for me. But it helped me a lot because I wanted to be like him, and then wanting to be like him, seeing that the focus that he had towards jiu-jitsu, especially jiu-jitsu, once he fell in love with that, he fell in love. Seeing what it took to rank up, to go through the belts, to go through class, it kind of rubbed off on me because I definitely didn't want to get in trouble while I was in jail. There's so many negative forces. There's a lot of negative forces in prison, believe me. But it meant a lot because I was able to say to myself in a lot of situations, like, man, like if Joe was standing here now, would he wouldn't even, he'd probably walk away from this situation because for the little bit of freedoms that we did have, I'm able to train, I'm able to get mail, I'm able to, you know what I mean, get my pictures and see how they were doing things on the outside. And I when I was inside, I literally called it my jiu-jitsu mindset. I tried to say to myself, anything that would take me away from jiu-jitsu, or anything that, like getting in trouble in prison, they send you to segregation, which inmates call the hole. And I would never want to be in segregation because that means I would have to miss an episode of The Ultimate Fighter. You know, anything that wasn't like to keep me on the jiu-jitsu path or keep me focused towards martial arts, or anything that could take me away from the little bit of freedom that I had to do anything jiu-jitsu-wise. I was like, no, I can't get involved with that. I don't want to get involved with that. And like, I had the book. I was blessed that a friend of mine, who also knew Joe, he sent me The Gracie Way. I never forget the day I got The Gracie Way, the book. And I was looking at all the family members, Carlson, Hoyler, and Carlos and Holes, and I'm reading about and just looking at the family and looking at the dedication, and from the time they're kids and little geese, and it's just, I was like, nah, this is, I said, you know what, man, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to learn, and these guys aren't getting in trouble. The people I knew in the world who practice martial arts aren't getting in trouble, and I was like, I just want to be in the jiu-jitsu mindset. If I could be an honorary Gracie, I would. You know, I'm representing. I'm representing as best I can to, just like that. It's just that martial arts way of life. It kept me out of everything. It kept me out of everything, and I always credit my friend Joe for that. I really do.
That's awesome. It sounds like you did have kind of as the years ticked by, you really changed who you were, and jiu-jitsu was a big part of that, and so was your friend Joe.
Joe and jiu-jitsu were two of the biggest factors. I used to talk, as I started changing and developing into the man I am now, I used to talk to other inmates they're out here now, and they never got a chance to meet Joe, but I would say, look, this is what it takes to, like, if you want to get, like myself, I'm going to open a gym. I'm going to get here. I'm going to do these things. And I tell them, if you want to do it, you could do it. But this is the path it takes. And I always refer back to Joe because I looked at how he traveled from going to Brazil to when he was with the Gracies to coming to moving to San Diego when he went to the University of Jiu-Jitsu with Salo Ribeiro and his brother, and just the way when he felt like Jiu-Jitsu was changing, Joe wouldn't complain. He changed with Jiu-Jitsu. He used to send me letters all the time because, like I said, I went away in '97. '97, it was still pretty much like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Everything was Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. It was at that time. I didn't know anything about the Marcelo Garcia and the Mendez brothers and all these greats that have come out that are just they're just amazing. But these guys wasn't household names back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Joe would say, "Hey, you got to learn about this guy. Here, let me send you some. Let me send you some material on this guy and this guy." And he would travel where Jiu-Jitsu took him. And when he finally reached his black belt, he was at Atos with Andre. He received his black belt from Andre Galval, and that's when I learned about how good Andre Galval was. And just it's like the more I learned about Jiu-Jitsu and these people in Jiu-Jitsu, the more I wanted to be more like the people in Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
and looking at Joe, the more you learn about Jiu-Jitsu, the more you can look up to him for what he's accomplishing, and
right.
You know, as you're going through your hard time, he's going through changes himself and training very hard. So
right.
You got out. What was that like, and when did you start training?
Oh, wow. Man, when I got out, I was a whole new... Oh, wow, that's amazing. Shoot. Let me put it like this. I got out in 2013, March 2013. In the state of Pennsylvania, when you first get out, you have to go to a halfway house for a 90-day program. It's like welcome back to the world, kind of get you familiar with working a job and that type of thing again.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you, when I came out, I hit the road running. Oh my goodness! I got out the first day. Day 2, I had a job. Day 90, apartment, licensed car. I mean, it was just crazy. I was working and working and working, and I haven't heard from Joe in a while when I first got home. So I was assuming he was still in San Diego. And then I got a call. As time went on, I was in the Reading, Pennsylvania area. I was about an hour away from where I'm at now. And when I came back, what I call home, to Lehigh Valley, Joe was back. He was back from San Diego. And I had ran into him. I was working at Gold's Gym. I was on my way to doing my own gym thing. Personal training and working the front desk and whatever I needed to learn from the gym.
Yeah.
And I would go. I found out what Joe was. Joe was training at a place called Alex Wilkie's in New Jersey, and I would go visit him down there. I wasn't full-time training as I am now. Like now, I'm on the mat 3 days, 4 days a week, 5 days if I can. You know what I mean? I'm on the mat whenever I can get on the mat. I was still busy trying to go through the process of getting my credit up, getting my credit scores right, money for, because the open gym's it's not cheap. Weights is amazing what weights cost and machines. But
pay by the pound.
I was still in a yes. I was still in the process of trying to open this gym, and I would do like privates with Joe whenever he was free. If I could get a hold of him, which it wasn't too hard sometimes. But we go find some mats, and he would show me something. He always loved to teach. That was his biggest thing. He loved to teach. He loved to show jiu-jitsu whenever he could. So it was the beginning of this year, I should say. I started training really full-time in December of 2017. So coming into 2018, I've been on the mat at least twice to 3 times to 4 times a week I've never missed a class. But it was a hurtful thing. Last year in 2017, Joe committed suicide. He was going through his own medical issues, and he really got depressed. He got seriously depressed. training the way he used to train, and he had a I don't want to. Well, I'm just gonna. He was fighting the opiate addiction. He got hooked on his painkillers from the hospital. That was a big fight. That was always a big fight. We were day and night. I don't want to say day and night. That makes it sound like it was every day. But there were times where him and the prescription drugs, trying to get another script from another doctor, that was a monster, trying to kick that. And between his injuries, he had a lot of bad injuries and something called compartmental syndrome, that it's like his body started attacking his own body, and that really depressed the hell out of him. And he left his family and me a note, and my last email from him, and he had, he was, if I can't do jiu-jitsu and I can't do martial arts, then I really don't want to keep going, because my life should be better than this type thing. So he ended it in July of 2017. So,
wow, that's got to be devastating for obviously you and his family and everybody close to him. That sort of thing, kind of, we have to be careful for as citizens in this jiu-jitsu community. If you see like a friend having trouble like that, so many times they're not able to help themselves, and also we're not able to help them either. Like, professional help is needed, and
right,
and that means, I mean, like, that it's a big deal, and so many times people, I mean, I'm sorry for your loss, Evan.
Oh, I think I was getting a little emotional. You had to excuse me for a moment. So, but no, it was very sad. It was very sad. It's still sad to me today. And it's like his family said. I mean, Joe was my brother. I still don't know why he did it. I've never seen him back down from a fight, ever, and this was the only fight I've ever seen him back down from. And it was like the ultimate fight, like, who gives up on life? So that was a rough one for me.
Yeah.
To me, he was pretty much invincible. And when I seen that, I was like, man, some things just aren't invincible.
And he's like a mentor, somebody who's helped you, and
right.
And I think that a lot of times we see people as that invincible, but we all have vulnerabilities.
Keeps me training. I train for the both of us.
Yes, do that. So you actually started a scholarship?
Yes. What I would like to do, as long as I'm breathing, I would like to find I've been kind of looking in the area, and I've been asking for help, and I'm going to go back on Facebook and ask for more help to see if I can find. I would like to put a kid, male or female, that was also kind of like Joe and I. Like I said, Joe used to get in his fair share of trouble. I got my fair share of trouble, but jiu-jitsu grabbed a hold of Joe really quick. So he just traveled the jiu-jitsu path. I was still off and on. Like, I always say, this is my best way of summing it up. I didn't know if I was Tupac one day or Biggie Smalls the next or Evan Robinson the next. I was still running the streets and then trying to do jiu-jitsu when I catch Joe, and then I didn't know where I wanted to be. So in the end, my path got veered off, and I committed a robbery. But I'm trying to find a child like similar to Joe and I, who's on the cusp, that's walking a fence. Like, this is a good kid, but if you keep this up, there's a good possibility you might go to jail and mess your life up. The way martial arts, it's amazing how martial arts, I think all martial arts does, it's just the way it affects you. Like, it gives you something to strive for, something to work towards. And when you learn something, it's like you want to continue learning it. You know what I mean? It's what I've seen especially with jiu-jitsu, it's like when you go to a jiu-jitsu school, it's like it's a whole new family. It's people. You're holding yourself accountable to other people, and I can't explain how it's just amazing how jiu-jitsu, for me in particular, but just martial arts, how it transforms people and makes them want to do better.
So your idea is to find a kid who is kind of in a bad spot, not a bad kid, and try to prevent them from making some bad decisions by giving them better things to do, basically.
By showing them the jiu-jitsu. That's my goal. I would personally like to find a kid a year and introduce them to jiu-jitsu. And I'm not against opposed like karate or anything else like that, but I see what jiu-jitsu has done for me.
Yeah.
So that's where I just think I think it's a good outlet. I think it promotes positivity. It's nothing negative. It's just it builds character. I mean, I tell people all the time. I'm in survival mode. I said it takes a lot for you. We go to the gym every day knowing we're going to get tapped out. Like, I don't plan on tapping nobody out for at least another year and a half. I mean, it nothing builds character like this. So it's just, man.
Yeah, Evan,
I appreciate it.
I don't think you need to say, like jiu-jitsu, and not that anything wrong with anything else. I think you're the perfect. It's so much easier to buy a product from a salesperson when they believe in it. And clearly you believe in jiu-jitsu. If you had found wrestling or judo or taekwondo, whatever, and got the same experience with that, that would be the perfect thing to show kids, because that's where your passion and your fire is. But now where you're at is jiu-jitsu. It's that jiu-jitsu could bring good things, and really probably what a lot of it will be is you, Evan. Like these kids will be getting you and jiu-jitsu, and that's what's gonna make the big change on kids. They get, they learn some martial arts and some self-defense and some other great things. They hang out with you, a very positive guy, a guy who's was in tough spots in life, and you've beaten the odds. They'll see you set and reach goals, and you'll help them do that and that sort of things. They get Evan the mentor, and much like you had in your life with Joe.
Right.
So I think, jiu-jitsu is the perfect vehicle for you to be helping kids in those situations.
Yeah, well, like I said, you're right. Yeah, I look at what it's done for me, how it changed me, and how it changes people around me. It really does. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's an amazing art from an amazing family. It's just I've never seen somebody who ever. It's like the guys I train with over at Hensel Gracie, PA. Some of our new guys. No one's ever came in and who hasn't quit. It kind of weeds out the good and the bad. But it's no one who's ever come in and say, damn, that I don't want to be good at this, or I don't want to be better. Every day it's like after class we all say the same thing. Man, I can't wait to the next class so I can drill this and try not to get caught in that. And it's just amazing. It's like none of us can go a day without thinking about it. Like thinking about it.
Yeah.
We all call each other. Somebody, you going to class? Yeah, I'm coming to class. You coming to class? I'm coming to class. Yeah. It's amazing. I've never. It's just an experience. I think everybody should experience. I try and tell everybody, men, women, especially women, the way jiu-jitsu, how it was designed, like after Carlson passed it down kind of to Grandmaster Elio, it's designed for small people to defeat whoever's trying to hurt them.
Yeah.
I promote it all day. I haven't found anything wrong. I love it. I can't help it. I love it. I love jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I love jiu-jitsu.
And I love your goal, and I know that you'll Evan, you're a goal guy. Like you set out a goal. I can't imagine how hard it would be to open up a gym and like leave prison with the goal of opening up a gym and do that, in a fairly short amount of time. Crazy. So this goal of helping these kids, I know it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. But like sitting over here in Kansas, I know you're going to do that.
Uh-huh.
like you have a goal. Evan's going to reach the goal, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I definitely appreciate that. And I expect that the kids that you help will see that in you and do the same thing in their lives. So that's awesome.
You know what? It makes you feel good. It's good for the soul. It's good for the soul. It costs absolutely nothing to be good and give and pass on and I don't, maybe that's a combination of mom, dad, Joe, and jiu-jitsu, but it feels good. It feels good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It feels good.
Real quick, we're running a little short on time, and you briefly mentioned that you played poker pretty seriously.
Yes.
Tell me, I've never had any. I've done hundreds of interviews, never had a serious poker player on the show yet. Tell me a little bit about that, and also if there's any lessons that you've learned in poker that apply to jiu-jitsu. I'd love to hear that as well.
Well, I'll definitely say poker. I played for a short time. It allowed me to do a lot of concerts and stuff like that. I played very disciplined. I played more disciplined when I was very strict, a very, very strict poker player. I looked at it more as an hourly job because it's one of those situations where if you win a nice hand, you might win $50 to $100. I played at smaller tables, the 1-2 tables, but I looked at it averagely. I just made $100 in an hour. Like there's no need for me to play any more hands for at least another hour or two. You know what I mean? I kind of looked at it like if I'm out in the world and I'm working and I'm only making $12 an hour, I'm doing fairly well here.
Yeah.
By just trying to play premium hands and just wait for a good pot. So I played very disciplined, but the discipline is the same as from jiu-jitsu. The likelihood of you can what's the best way to say it? You can lose a poker hand. Yes, poker is a gamble. All hands are a gamble. But if you stay disciplined and if you stay focused and stay disciplined and don't chase, like in jiu-jitsu we always say, well, I say it now, the Henner and Hedon always said it, and my professors always say it, but it's always like position over submission. If you put yourself in a good position by playing just premium cards and those cards hit, you're in a good position to win the match or win the situation you're in now. Jiu-jitsu is the same way. I don't know a whole lot of submission, especially now with all this lasso guard and so much stuff I have to deal with on a regular spider guard and trying to learn how to break this and break that. But as my coach says, I'm a fairly big guy, so if I stick to the fundamentals, that's what that's what I'm trying to adapt my game to. I try and keep it to the basics, and even if I can't submit the person, I still feel it's a win if I can get the winning position. If I can get put in a position where I'm controlling you and you can't do anything to me, then I don't feel bad anymore. Like I don't feel like I have to try and gamble, or as they say, I'm not bluffing at the pot. All right.
You folded with a bad hand. You said, okay, I'm not going to win this, but at least I'm not going to lose big.
At least I'm not exactly. So the discipline of them both, it goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand. The only reason why I didn't continue with poker is because I'll tell this side. A lot of people don't tell the bad sides of poker. I've had good runs. I have good days where I walked in the casino and not walked in with thousands, but I literally walked in with a couple $100 and came out with a couple thousand. And I've also walked in the casino with thinking I got a little bigger than my britches and walk in with a couple hundred, maybe the 1,000 I just won and lost it all. So poker is such a roller coaster ride. I said, you know what? the gym was the perfect plan. We're going to get back on that track. We're going to have to leave this alone. It really is a gamble. It's an up and down roller coaster ride, and I got to get back to jiu-jitsu. So we're going to have to leave this alone for a while. Get my gym more stable, and I might, if things go well one day, you might catch me playing in the World Series. But if not, it's all right. It's all right. I got a long way to go. I got a long way to go in my jiu-jitsu career. So
yeah, kind of like it's kind of a hobby if it's around, and your career is helping people.
Yes. Yep. That's how I look at it.
Evan, I'll put a link to the article that features you from Jiu-Jitsu Times. But how can somebody get a hold of you if they want to train or ask you a question, or is there a good social media outlet?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook under my name, Evan Robinson. You can also, I'm on Facebook and Instagram under the same thing, Evan Robinson. My gym is called 36E Fitness. I'm located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. My email is 36efitness@gmail.com. If anybody has any questions or anything, you can always email me. You can call me at the gym. The gym number is 610-756-7700. I'm always open to talk to anybody and help out any way I can in anything. And talk about working out. We try and put a program together for you. Or if you want to talk jiu-jitsu, I can do that for years with no problem. But my life is I like talking to people and helping people and trying to get people to avoid, like our parents, right? Avoid the mistakes that I've made.
Wow, that's awesome. And Evan, there's probably more than one Evan Robinson in the world. If I typed you up, you popped right up. You're the Evan Robinson. Right now you're wearing a gi, and this is owner of 360 Fitness. So you popped right up for me, and that's great. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes so everybody can find you if they want to keep up with you and watch you as you progress through your jiu-jitsu journey and as you reach your goals of helping people. Yes,
I thank you for having me, man. I thank you for reaching out and letting me speak to people and promote, and not promote my gym, but just to promote jiu-jitsu. Like jiu-jitsu is life. Wow, that's crazy. I seen someone who had that too. Jiu-jitsu is life. That's really bugged out. But it's just the mindset of it, the everything of it. It's a great art, and I really wish everybody gets a chance to experience it and have good people around. And I'm pretty sure any time you go to a jiu-jitsu gym or whatever, you'll have great people around you. Yep. But I'm doing my journey for me and my boy. That's what I'm doing.
Awesome. Evan, proud of you. You're an impressive person in the community, and thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you.
Man, what an honor it was to have a man like Evan Robinson come on the show, share his story. I left the interview very motivated as far as obstacles get put in our way all the time. And sure, it would be nice if life happened the way you wanted it to and everything was perfect and nothing took up some of your time or nothing like that happened to you. But things happen, and Evan has been thrown some giant hurdles in his life, and it'd be more normal than not for him to end up back in trouble or back behind bars or at best maybe just working a job that scrapes by and becomes like a typical citizen. Evan, he started his own business. He's running a gym now. That's amazing. He's helping people. He's wanting to help kids that were in similar spots than him. Like, he's meeting so many goals that should be, you would think would be like so hard for him to reach. He sets his mind, he goes after it, and he does it. So congrats for what you've accomplished so far, Evan. You're very inspiring. And a guy like you, I know you're going to be out there for the long term and helping people. And it's an honor to have you on the show.
Yeah, we always thank the the interviewee for taking time to come on the show with us, but it almost feels like a bigger show of appreciation is called for here. And just, thanks for living the life you're living and inspiring other people to, get out of that vicious cycle that you can get into once you've made a mistake or two.
We've got an article this week. If you go to evolve-mma.com is where the article's from. I'll put a link to in the show notes. If you go to bjjbrick.com, you'll find the show notes. And click on the article if you want to read it, because we won't cover everything. But in this article, it talks about, or I guess it's titled, 4 Unexpected Lessons You'll Learn in a BJJ Gym. And I think that some of these lessons happen a little sooner than others. The first one they talk about is technique beats size and strength. It talks about the importance of technique and how you could use even somebody else's body against them, and the smaller person can beat the larger person. All that said, I with this one, you got to almost put like a little caveat on there as far as it doesn't always beat strength. Obviously, it can but strength is a factor. Size is a factor. Some people are given, some advantages when you step on the mat. If you have a lot more skill than somebody, you could take away some of those advantages. But, we've interviewed a lot of people on here, a lot of very technical, smaller people, and they'll tell you when I go grapple a larger person, I have to do things differently. I have to do things, maybe I'm a little more serious with that, and maybe, these things. Size does matter. If someone's super strong, that's going to affect how you're able to perform your jiu-jitsu. But the smaller person can beat the larger person. That's the overall part of this lesson, is that, and I think you feel it, especially the big guys feel it, when you walk on the mat and some 12-year-old skinny kid armbars the crap out of you. It's like, okay, that works. Time to learn it. It's a little harder to learn if you're a smaller person, because you do get beat by the bigger people for so long. Unless you could watch a teammate who's smaller do well against bigger, I think that can be inspiring.
I think kind of a unexpected lesson you learn that's kind of hidden within this one is that being small can have its own advantages as well. You just have to find out what those advantages are and learn how to use them. If you are small, you are likely going to have more success moving in small spaces. You're likely going to be a little more agile, a little bit more quick. And it's not just that technique can beat size and strength, but you can start to recognize what the advantages that you may have and use them against the bigger, stronger opponent.
That's a good point, Joe. I like that. And, we're talking about technique, speed, size, and strength. This is really what got me hooked when I started jiu-jitsu. I might have been bigger than somebody, stronger than somebody. I would get top position, and I would be rolled effortlessly. And that's really what piqued my interest and kept me going. I wanted to be that person someday who could feel those small nuances of change and balance and be able to throw me one way, or, feel the weight shift and, just be able to use that technique. And but that's really what got me hooked. I like point number 2 also, get in tune with your body. One thing when I started jiu-jitsu is I knew how to use my hands, my arms. Jiu-jitsu, you learn a lot of weird movements. And when I say weird, just because they're unfamiliar to me or to the practitioner when you first start. But you end up learning how to use your whole body. Like, I never thought I could use my feet and my legs like I can now. Our head. We learn how to use our head, maybe turn somebody's chin so that they go one way. We just learn all the kind of going back to the technique part. We learn different ways to use our body to, control our opponent, efficiently, effectively. And, that's another thing that really impressed me when I first started jiu-jitsu, and I never thought I would be able to get to that point, that I would be able to use my feet like hands and different appendages.
Gary even can use his hands like feet.
Yeah, there used to be the old myth that certain traditional martial artists had to register their hands and feet with law enforcement as deadly weapons. Gary has had to register literally every body part with law enforcement as lethal weapons.
That's on a different list that doesn't let him get anywhere near schools.
Well, I can get within 20 yards of schools, Byron.
Okay.
So I can't get halfway close. But, that's another problem I run into. I can't train everywhere. So, you should put an appendage, no pun intended, in your first year of BJJ.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's called an appendix, I guess.
I had that taken out.
Yeah.
Oh, and point number 3 in the article today, humility is the key to learning. And I really do think that humility in general is sort of something that most people don't start jiu-jitsu thinking, I want to be more humble. But that really is an unexpected benefit of being in jiu-jitsu is, if you stick with it and you train with other guys that have the right attitude and right mindset, you soon learn that winning and losing in training isn't important, and tapping the smaller people or newer people isn't important, and you start to put the ego in check, and that's ultimately the key to getting better. But it also has benefits as it carries into the rest of your life. You just become a better person and easier to get along with, and the benefits go far beyond the mats.
Yeah, I think people kind of get into their own way a bit with learning if they're unable to put their ego to the side. I think that's easy to understand in jiu-jitsu, and if you could learn that here, you could learn a lot of other things off the mat as well. If someone's trying to give you advice on the mats and they've tapped you out like 4 times in 4 minutes, you probably take the advice. It's like, okay, yes, I do have a problem with my game. If someone's at work trying to give you some advice, the advice could be just as good, but your ego might be in the way a little bit, and you've done it this way before 100 times, and sure, this, the way you're telling me might be better, but this is the way I've always do it. Maybe you should listen and try it out. I think we can kind of learn from jiu-jitsu that way because it's so obvious when there's a skill discrepancy so many times. There's a 4th point. You know what, gentlemen? It's called The Principles of the Gentle Art. And if you want to see that one, click the link in the show notes or go find it on evolve-mma.com. You have to go find that one and learn about that one. 3 of us, we each covered a point. I think that's pretty good. Leave you guys hanging there, a little bit of mystery.
We're going to make you search for it. You have to seek out that knowledge. You can do it by clicking on the link.
Gary's used to making people search
notes.
For trying to turn it into a treasure hunt.
Guys, I want to give a quick thank you to some of our Patreon supporters. Trip, Dwayne, and Adam have been Patreon supporters for a little while now. I want to give them a thank you for the continued support. If you enjoy the show, you learn something or you get something out of it every week, we would appreciate the pat on the back and a little bit of financial support as well. There's a link in the show notes, and you can click it, and it kind of explains everything. Basically, most people support us for $1 an episode, and at the end of the month, if there's 5 episodes or whatever, your card will get charged $5, and Patreon gets a little bit of that, and we get the rest, and it helps keep the show on the air, and it also has helped us grow quite a bit and with what we're doing and the amount of time we're able to spend with it. As a token of our appreciation, we'll send you out a 5-inch BjjBrick gi patch, a sticker that you can place basically anywhere. You can put it on your flippers. And if you would like to join our private Facebook group, you're more than welcome to. Send me a message on Facebook or in our email and let me know who you are and how you are on Facebook, because I found people are hard to find on Facebook if I don't have some mutual friends. So I'd like you guys to join the Patreon support team if you're able. And just a special shout-out to Trip, Dwayne, and Adam.
And as an added bonus, anybody that's received one of our gi patches, take that down to your local tattoo artist and have it tattooed on your body and send me the bill. I will gladly pay for it.
That's awesome, Joe.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
So, okay, Joe, real quick, we got to put a little limit on this because some of these tattoo artists are like thousands of dollars for tattoos.
Let's set it at $250.
Okay.
That's pretty impressive there, Joe. I know our listeners definitely thank you. And they will be getting those things by the dozens.
Hey, look, it's a picture of the two of you. You really think anybody's going to take that down to the tattoo artist?
That's a safe bet, yeah.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
I've seen a lot of bad tattoos, but that one would be probably one of the best.
Yeah. Like, Byron, you're talking about bad tattoos. People talk about bad fake audiobooks. And this week, Byron was talking about an audiobook to, teach a hygiene lesson. And, Byron's always trying to make it easier for when people start training. But this week, Byron started a new audiobook. It's called The Saga of Byron with the Strong-Smelling Gi. And Byron, I know you were trying to, let people know about what could happen if you never washed your gi and you came to class. And, I know you have firsthand knowledge on it. And, I know that's why you came up with this audiobook. So tell us a little bit about the saga of Byron, the guy with the strong-smelling gi.
Yeah, this took place many years ago, but not only did I have what you'd think of as a typical strong-smelling gi, where, you go train and you don't do a good job of washing it, I just ended up in a weird situation where I let Joe borrow all my clothes and he never returned them. And I ended up with one gi, and I just wore it all the time.
Even to work?
Even to work. It was pretty awkward.
Where did you work at?
I actually, at the time, since we're making up a story anyway, worked at a laundry cleaning place. I just couldn't put it in the wash machine and be there and not get in trouble at the time. So
you can't do that on your own.
As part of the saga, it's a really interesting story of how I wore this strong smelling gi. You hear people talk about never stop training. I didn't want to stop training just because I couldn't wear a clean gi and nobody wanted to train with me. So trying to get my clothes back from Joe, but he's spending all his money on tattoos for other people, so he needs the clothes.
I borrowed your clothes. I did not wear them. I was trying to help you figure out fashion. It's 2015 when Byron's writing this book, and all he's wearing is bell bottoms and wide collared shirts. And I mean, come on, Byron.
And my necklace. You took my big chain necklace as well.
And he grapples no-gi in parachute pants.
I did until Joe borrowed them.
It's hammer time, baby.
So the saga is seven different stories that take place in this, and all of them kind of end in the same loneliness.
I'm curious about the science behind the best way to avoid staph infection and ringworm is to build up an immunity. How's that work out for you?
Well, I've never had a staph infection. It's been a long time since I've had ringworm. Give a shout out to training at Fox Fitness. Never had ringworm training at Fox Fitness. I've been there a long time, and I'm susceptible to ringworm because at old gyms, it would be every once or twice, 3 times in a bad year, I'd get ringworm and have to get rid of it. But man, Jake Fox keeps that gym very sparkly clean, and he was actually the one that broke the saga. He's like, Byron, we're buying you some clothes, and he bought me this pair of little short cut-off shorts. It's really saved the day.
So basically, he gave you a pair of his wife's blue jean shorts, huh?
Yep.
Yep. They fit you all right?
Nope. They I don't have quite the butt to fill it out, but.
Well, Byron, there's always implants.
Into the shorts? Into the back or the front?
Butt implants. So that, well, I guess you can get them both ways.
We got a lot to learn here, gentlemen. As they say in the saga business, the saga continues.
Make sure you pick that audiobook up. As Joe said earlier, it makes great Christmas presents.
Yeah, but don't pick up that old gi. I had to basically, when you get married, that's one of the decisions your wife helps you out with and says, we're throwing this old gi away. But
I thought you got married in that gi.
That was the last time I wore. Just kidding. I like it, Gary. Oh, that's funny. Hey, you got to wear something, But that's it. That's my fake audiobook this week. And I was going to try to get Gary on one about flippers, but that didn't happen.
Well, I was actually thinking about getting one on you about the college students, but I decided to go with the saga instead.
You're nice to me. The word saga is just so inviting to tell a story.
Yes.
And next week, Joe's going to tell his saga.
But I mean, there's a life lesson right there. You know, I know that I'm normally the butt of the jokes that Byron always saves the audiobook for. So when I decided to jump first, you know, I went on the offensive. And maybe that's something I need to do every week and just be a little more offensive so you don't get a chance to throw audiobooks at me.
Here's what's going to happen, guys. The show. This is the end of the show. It's winding down, so we might as well talk a little bit about the show and a little behind the scenes here. Next week, it's going to go like this. This is episode 271. Welcome back to the BjjBrick Podcast. Byron's got a fake audiobook coming out. It's like not our strongest start. There's a reason why this is at the back part of the show.
See, here's the thing, Gary. Both you and I never really listen to the entire podcast anymore because we're part of the creating of it. For all we know, Byron edits out everything that might make him look silly and just loads it up with every mistake you and I might make. So we may have to start to listen to an episode or two just to kind of fact check a little bit.
I think that would be a good idea.
2 new listeners coming at us. And also, new listeners and old listeners, you're welcome to train with us. If you're coming through the city of Wichita, Kansas, look Gary and I up, much like our friend Scott did the other day.
Oh, we had an awesome time training with you, Scott. Thank you for stopping by.
Yep. And he gave me, Gary, I don't know about you, he gave me a shirt, a bunch of stickers, a gi, all this stuff. How about you?
That's all he gave you? I actually got a car, and he paid my mortgage off.
Oh, no, just playing. Scott, it was great getting to know you again, and I look forward to training with you here in a little bit. He will be back in town, Gary. I don't know if he told you that. He probably didn't tell you that part.
Oh, he told me everything. We exchanged phone numbers, and actually, I think we're BFFs.
Yeah, well, he's staying at my house, Gary, so...
Well, my house is paid for, thanks to Scott.
No, I'm just playing. But if you do come to Wichita, Kansas, or if you're here and you haven't ever trained with us, send us an email at bjjbrick@gmail.com, and we'd like to get some mat time with you. Even if you train at another gym, it's always fun. Training with the listeners. Joe, we got people trying to find you, my friend. Where can they do that?
Yeah, near to New Orleans part of the month. If you're in that area, hit us up. And I'm south of Houston when I'm home. I love to train with you. Just a 40-minute drive down the highway from Houston.
If you want to find Joe directly and send him a message, just type in Joe Thomas on Facebook. He pops right up.
Along with the 30,000 other Joe Thomases.
Yep. But no, just either send. The best way would be to send the Facebook message. Joe seems to see all those, and it goes well. If you send me a message on email, I'll forward it to Joe, and you'll be connected. And it's good times.
Shout out to Joe. He's our Facebook expert. If you see all that great stuff you see coming up on Facebook every day, a couple times a day, it's Joe 99% of the time. So you probably noticed ever since Joe came on board, our Facebook page has gotten a lot more active, and it's 100% due to Joe. So give him a shout out. Say great job, Joe.
Oh, man, I appreciate that, Gary. And, hey, we appreciate the interaction with our listeners, man. If you stop by our Facebook page, leave us a comment and let us know where you train and what's going on at your gym.
Guys, let's do it again in about a week or so. What do you think?
Sounds good, man.
Definitely.
Till then, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, and you will get better. See you on the mats.
Make sure you wear your flippers, especially if you're swimming with hot guys.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.